October 14, 1943. The sky over Schweinfurt, Germany, was a chaotic canvas of contrails, flak bursts, and dueling aircraft. High above the fray, a formation of Focke-Wulf FW-190 pilots, confident aces of the Luftwaffe, spotted a new kind of American fighter escort attempting to protect the vast boxes of B-17 bombers. These new planes were big, brutish, and looked nothing like the nimble Spitfires they had encountered before. To the Germans, the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt was a joke, a lumbering jug they mistakenly believed could be easily outmaneuvered and swatted from their sky. They had no idea they were about to meet a force of nature, a flying powerhouse whose very design defied their conventional wisdom, and whose 8 waiting machine guns would soon rewrite the rules of aerial combat over Europe in a storm of fire and lead. The laughter from the German pilots was almost audible in their cockpits. They were accustomed to the sleek, agile Messerschmitt Bf-109s and the formidable FW-190s, machines built for speed and turning duels. The P-47, by comparison, was colossal. It was over 7 tons of metal, with a massive, barrel-shaped fuselage. It looked like a flying bathtub, an ungainly beast next to the svelte predators of the Luftwaffe. Their initial assessment was based on a classic dogfighting doctrine, where tight turns and climb rate were king. They saw the Thunderbolt's size as a fatal disadvantage, a guarantee of a quick and easy victory. They closed in for the kill, expecting the American pilots to be helpless, unable to twist and turn out of their gun sights. This arrogance was their first and most critical mistake. What the German pilots failed to understand was that the P-47 was not built for the kind of knife-fighting, low-speed turning battles they preferred. It was engineered for a different kind of war, a war of energy. Its heart was a monstrous Pratt & Whitney R2800 double Wasp radial engine, an 18-cylinder powerhouse that delivered over 2,000 horses. This engine was so powerful that it required a complex turbo-supercharger system, housed in the rear of the fuselage, with ducts running back along the belly of the aircraft. This engineering marvel allowed the Thunderbolt to breathe thin, high-altitude air, where German fighters gasped and lost performance. The jug was built to dominate the sky from 30,000 feet and above. As the FW-190s dove in, expecting an easy target, the American pilots did something unexpected. They did not turn. Instead, they pushed their throttles forward, unleashing the raw power of the double Wasp, and dove away. The Thunderbolt, thanks to its weight and clean design when the dive brakes were closed, became the fastest thing in the sky. It could accelerate to incredible speeds in a dive, speeds that would cause the wings to rip off a Messerschmitt. The German pilots, stunned, watched as their prey simply vanished, plummeting earthward with a velocity that seemed impossible. The lumbering joke had just revealed its first deadly secret. It was a veritable express train in a vertical fight. The American pilots then demonstrated their second, and most terrifying, advantage. After building up immense speed in the dive, they used that kinetic energy to climb back to altitude with a momentum that left the German fighters struggling in their wake. This was the boom and zoom tactic. The Thunderbolt would not turn with you. It would overpower you. It would dive from a higher altitude, a silhouette growing with terrifying speed, make a single, devastating firing pass, and then use its speed to climb back to safety, ready to repeat the process. For pilots used to the elegant dance of a turning fight, this was a brutal, shocking, and brutally effective new form of combat. And then came the rain. The boom in boom and zoom was the collective voice of 8 M2, 50 caliber Browning machine guns. 4 in each wing, the guns were perfectly harmonized to concentrate their fire at a point several hundred yards ahead of the aircraft. When a P-47 pilot pressed the trigger, he unleashed a hailstorm of lead, over 1,200 rounds per minute of total firepower. It was not the cannon shell of a German fighter, designed to rip a wing off with a single hit. This was a sawing, scything stream of heavy bullets that would walk through an enemy airframe, shredding metal, fuel lines, control cables, and the engine. It was like being hosed down with a fire hose of solid steel. A German pilot caught in this cone of fire would feel and hear a sound unlike any other. A deafening, ripping, tearing noise as his aircraft disintegrated around him. The 850s did not just shoot down an enemy. They often obliterated it. Wings separated, tails were severed, and engines were transformed into instant fireballs. The psychological impact was as severe as the physical damage. Knowing that a single, brief 1-second burst from that battery could turn your sophisticated fighter into a cloud of confetti was a terrifying new reality for the once confident Luftwaffe aces. The laughter had died in their throats, replaced by a cold, gripping fear. The P-47's resilience became the stuff of legend. It was not just an offensive weapon. It was a flying tank. Its rugged construction and radial engine could absorb an incredible amount of punishment. A German 20mm cannon shell could cause devastating damage, but the Thunderbolt's robust airframe and the lack of a vulnerable liquid-cooled engine, like the Mustangs, meant it could often keep flying even when badly mauled. There are countless accounts of jugs returning to base with cylinders shot off the engine, with large sections of the wing or tail missing, testament to its incredible ability to bring its pilot home. This durability fostered immense confidence in the American pilots. As the war progressed, the P-47's role evolved and expanded brilliantly. While it remained a premier high-altitude escort fighter, its true calling was found at lower altitudes. Once fitted with new paddle blade propellers that dramatically improved its climb rate and low-altitude performance, the Thunderbolt became the supreme fighter bomber of the European theater. It could carry a devastating load of ordnance, up to 2,500 pounds of bombs, or a combination of bombs and high-velocity rockets. This transformed the Jug from a sky-clearing fighter into a ground-pounding titan. The sight of a squadron of P-47s stooping on a German train, tank column, or airfield became a common and dreaded one for the Wehrmacht. They would dive down with a distinctive howl, their 8 guns first silencing flak batteries before releasing their bombs with pinpoint accuracy. The phrase Jabos, short for Jag Bomber or Fighter Bomber, became a term of fear among German ground troops. The very plane that had once been mocked was now ruling the skies from the stratosphere down to the treetops, crippling the German war machine's mobility and supply lines with relentless, brutal efficiency. The men who flew the Thunderbolt developed a fierce, proud loyalty to their aircraft. They knew its strengths, and they learned to compensate for its few weaknesses. They were not the glamorous, little friends of the bomber crews. They were the workhorses, the rugged individuals who could mix it up with the best German fighters and then destroy a target on the ground on the way home. The P-47 was a pilot's airplane, demanding skill and understanding. But in return, it offered a fighting chance in any situation and the sheer, visceral power that no other Allied fighter could match. By the time of the D-Day landings in June 1944, the P-47 was an undeniable master of the European skies. Its presence was overwhelming. Hundreds of Thunderbolts roamed virtually unopposed over France, hunting for any movement, strangling German reinforcements, and providing a protective umbrella over the invasion beaches. The Luftwaffe, already bled white by the relentless onslaught from fighters like the P-47 and P-51, could offer little resistance. The Jug had played a monumental role in achieving the air superiority that made the Allied invasion possible. The transformation in perception was absolute. The aircraft that began the war as an object of mockery was now one of its most feared and respected weapons. German pilots no longer laughed. They offered grim warnings to new replacements. They learned to check the high sun for a diving Jug and to break away, not try to turn with it. They developed a healthy fear of the distinctive, deep-throated roar of the double Wasp engine and the sight of those 8.50 caliber muzzles staring them down. The Thunderbolt had earned its fear the hard way. The legacy of the P-47 is not just in its impressive kill-to-loss ratio or the thousands of tanks and locomotives it destroyed. Its legacy is one of American industrial ingenuity and a refusal to conform to expectations. It was a brute force solution to the problem of aerial warfare, a plane that won not by being the most elegant, but by being the toughest, most heavily armed, and most powerful fighter in the sky. It proved that in a fight, Sometimes finesse is no match for overwhelming, unstoppable force. So the next time you see a picture of that big, barrel-chested fighter, remember the lesson it taught the Luftwaffe over the skies of Europe. It taught them that you should never judge a book by its cover, and that sometimes the biggest, toughest-looking opponent is exactly that. The P-47 Thunderbolt, the Jug, was the plane that turned German laughter into the sound of screaming engines and the relentless, tearing rain of 8 heavy machine guns, a sound that became the symphony of their defeat.